Hi everyone, my name is Deborah and this is the Edit by DH. Welcome to the first episode of a new series called Dee Unedited. For those of you who don't know me, like I said, my name is Deborah and I mainly blog about beauty, lifestyle, fashion, food, travel, but I wanted to do a new series called Dee Unedited, as that's my name, and also to talk about topics unedited, to talk about topics that are very honest, authentic, raw, and I just want this to be an open space and a safe space. The first episode is the C word, and in this, the C word isn't the rude word, it's children. Now, I decided to name this episode the C word because I do feel like talking about children has become a walking on eggshells type of topic. I don't know what you guys think, but I have been wanting to talk about this topic for a long time. I don't know about you, but I have an army of female friends, and I love that. I love my female friends. I'm definitely a girl's girl. But something I've noticed over the years, especially the older I get, and therefore the older that my friends get, is that they're at the age where they're having children, they're at the age where they've already had one or two children, or they're at the age where they're trying, but due to some sort of health issue, for example, they cannot sadly have children. I've noticed that there are so many women around me, and I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's a generational thing or a modern society, like a current society issue, where women are struggling more and more to have children. I mean, I have my personal theories on it. I do feel like it's because of modern day stresses. It's the kind of stresses that we never, well, I say we, but people didn't used to have back in the day, where life was perhaps a little simpler. You know, no technology, whether good or bad, gender roles were more defined. Women were just expected to be homemakers, and that's all they've really focused on. Whereas nowadays, women have to be so many things. Fair enough, some want to be so many things, but still, it's such a complicated society versus back in the day. I do think that contributes to stress, which then impacts health. Plus, if they have pre-existing health conditions, it adds to that even more. I find that I myself am very careful about asking whether someone has children or not, especially in this day and age. I don't know what you guys think and whether you're exactly the same, but I do think it's just one of those things where you ask, and if the answer is no, because I can't have kids, it's just automatically a conversation ender, unless that person is comfortable obviously talking about it and you know that it won't be a trigger for them, or perhaps it's a friend that you're close enough to and they can trust you enough to talk about it. I get asked a lot, do you have children? Are you going to have children? And personally, it's not a topic that offends me. Not because I know for sure that I can have kids, I don't know. For all I know, I have health issues and I may not be able to have kids, but I get asked a lot. And I think it's primarily because I'm married, A, but B, because I'm of the child rearing age, shall we say. So I'm 36. And as you guys all know, when women hit a certain age, your biological clock starts to tick. And I think that when you get to that age, it's very common for people to ask you. I also think it's a very Asian thing. And I mean Asian as in my kind of Asian, as in East and Southeast Asian, but also like, an Indian, Pakistani, Asian kind of question too, where they're like, are you having kids? Do you have kids? When are you having kids? So there's so many kind of like facets to this topic. So I thought it'd be easiest if I talk about my thoughts on it from a personal perspective. I love kids. And to give you an idea, I used to be a children and family social worker. If you have been following me on my channel for a while, you would have probably known that already because I have spoken about it before. If you didn't, then surprise. I used to be a children and family social worker for like 6-7 years. I studied it at university. It was either that, criminology, or teaching. And I just love children. I've always loved children. I know with some people they're not very comfortable with kids. They're like always keeping them at an arm's length. With me, you could put me in a room full of kids at a kids' party and I'll quite happily be comfortable to entertain them, speak to them. And I think there's something so innocent and wonderful about children. So before I got married, my dream was to get married, then have kids, and have the happily ever after. And it's not that I don't necessarily want that now. I've been married for 10 years. And I mean, if you'd asked me at the beginning of my marriage whether I wanted kids, the answer would have been, of course. No shadow of a doubt. I would have wanted kids. I would have told you the same thing. I would have probably said in a few years' time. But the weird thing is, as I get older, or the more older that I get, it's like the less I want children. And I don't know why, and I don't know what it is. Normally, it should be the other way around, right? Like where your biological clock starts to tick and you're like, okay, now I'm getting really broody. And every time, you're out and about and you see a child, it's like, yeah, your ovaries start to tingle. That's how it should feel, right? But I don't know. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if there's something wrong with me. And sometimes society makes me feel like that there's something wrong with me for not wanting kids. But I still adore children. I just don't want kids right now. And I don't know anymore if I want kids in the future. I can't say for sure. Obviously, my husband would like to have children, but even he, with work and everything else and all his other responsibilities, even he knows he wouldn't really be able to commit to having children right now. But it was one of those situations where we had to have a frank conversation. We had to sit down and have an honest and open, clear communication about my thoughts, my wishes and his thoughts. And it's that fine balance of being in a marriage where both your opinions matter. It's not one person team. You're a two-person team. So opinion and communication has to be from both sides. However, as a woman, it's my body, and therefore I have the ultimate say, I believe, in whether we have kids or not. And to be a little bit more lighthearted, and it's just me being silly, but I said, the second that, men can give birth through their backsides or through their belly buttons, feel free to have a kid, pop them out. But as long as it's coming from my body, I have a say whether we have children or not. But it is hard. It is hard. And like I said, I think there is this expectation from society that, as soon as you are married or you've been in a partnership for a long time, that the next natural step is to have kids. So after having a sit-down conversation with my other half, the next stop was my mum. Many of you will know that I have a very close relationship with my mum, and although I have a stepfather, we're not very close. That's perhaps another topic that I can cover another time. My mum and I, we have very honest conversations. It's more me having honest conversations with her and her listening and responding, if that makes sense. Originally, a couple of years back, my mum asked me, when are you having kids, by the way? And I would be like, oh, not anytime soon. Like, always wave her off, like, not anytime soon. At some point I'll have kids. My mum was like, okay. Then she'd ask me again after a couple of months or a year. And the same response would come, to the point where at one point my mum thought maybe we're trying to have kids, but I couldn't have kids naturally, and that's why I couldn't tell her. And obviously had to clarify that wasn't the case. And then it got to the point where she was like, when do you think you're going to have kids? And I said, I don't know, 35. And this is when I was about 32 or 33. And at the time, 35 sounded quite a while away, like a couple of years. And I was like, it's going to give me a few years respite to just not talk about this topic. Let's get it over with. And she was like, I remember her response, she was like, 35, I'll be dead by then. Being dramatic. And then I remember during the pandemic, and this is the curse of social media. I just remember looking on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and especially during the pandemic, everyone was popping out babies. It was like one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other announcement. And I call them pandemic babies, not to be disrespectful, but there was a pandemic baby boom. And lots of people joked saying that it's because people had nothing else to do, so they just shared intimacy and then had these babies. But whatever the reason, I don't think anybody can deny that there was a pandemic baby boom. And I think it was so hard for my friends who couldn't have children to see that and be witness to that on social media, and almost witness to that in a more intimate way than you ever would do in real life. Like you're being exposed to so many different aspects of someone's private life on social media. And in a way it's worse, because when people are sharing their life, it's very edited. It's very much like the positive sides, the beautiful side, the happy side, but people do less of the ugly side or the truthful side or the harder time side. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do this series as well, is to do like the unedited side. Over the pandemic, it's one thing for people who couldn't have children, who would be witness to all this baby pictures and gushing posts and captions, but there was also people like myself who felt this time pressure, and seeing all these people having babies online, I don't know, it made me feel really, really anxious for the first time. And I've never felt that time pressure until the pandemic. And I had to really look deep and hard into myself. That's when I had the chat with my other half, and then had the same conversation with my mum. And at that point, I realised I had reached that magic number of 35. And I thought, damn, I'm here at that age where I said I may have children. And now I still can't see myself having kids for another couple of years at the very least. So the same conversation I had with my other half and with my mum was that right now I'm not ready to have children, but when and if the time comes that I decide to have kids, I may not be able to have that child or those children biologically, and therefore my partner and I have agreed that we would consider adoption. I know adoption is not for everyone, but surrogacy is actually not for me. So the only other option for us would be adoption. And I used to work in social services for the children and family sector. So I not only got to witness a lot of adoptions, I actually helped to assess many prospective adopters, and foster carers obviously, but adopters. I actually matched a lot of children to adoptive families, and I got to see all sides of it, all 360 sides of it, including the very painful and the very ugly sides of adoption. But it also made me realize that there are so many children out there that need homes, that need love and protection, and not only need, deserve. So yeah, like I said, I had that frank discussion with my other half, with my mum, saying that, you know, should the day come where we're ready to have kids and we can't have them biologically, then we would consider adoption. And, you know, that's not an easy conversation to have, particularly with your Asian mum. But my mum, she is so traditional in many ways, but she's also so liberal and modern in many other ways too. Like, I always call my mum the original feminist, especially for an Asian woman of her era, like of her generation. She was born in the 50s, you know, and being so from such a culturally different background and upbringing, to from the east to the west, and then from a Christian background. So for me, imagine me to say, like, by the way, I'm not gonna have kids, mum. Oh, and by the way, I'm her only child. So I felt 10 times worse having to say this to my mum, because it's not like, oh, hey, I'm going to be that rebellious child that doesn't have any kids, but your other child, your golden child, can over here can compensate for me and my selfish decisions and have a grandchild for you at least. It doesn't work like that. In my case, I'm an only child, so really the only way she can have grandkids is through me. Whereas with my husband, he is the youngest of 4. And so apart from one sibling, his other 2 siblings have quite a number of children between them. So I think his parents are a bit like, okay, enough grandbabies, enough with the free babysitting. Whereas with my mum, like I said, I'm the only way she can have grandkids. So that was a really tough conversation to have with my mum, but at the same time, I felt like she deserved the honesty. my mum, as always, she's so supportive. And my mum said to me, you know what, ultimately it's your body, and ultimately it's your life, and ultimately it's your decision. So if that's what you guys have decided, then I will support you. If you don't want children, I'll support you. If you do decide to have children, I'll support you. And if you decide to adopt, I'll support you. And that's all. Oh gosh, I feel emotional. But by the way, guys, you're going to get a lot of this. I try to edit out a lot of emotion with my other domestic violence episode, which, by the way, everything will be linked down below. But I don't want to edit out anything like that anymore because, like I said, this is supposed to be the unedited series. So yeah, get used to me tearing up a lot. I might look like a tough cookie, but inside I'm as squidgy as a mochi. So it was a really tough conversation to have with my mum, and I just really am so thankful that she is such a supportive mum. I'm so blessed to have her as my mum. It doesn't mean that it makes it any easier because, you know, like I said, you still have society's pressures. And I feel like the questions are, do you have kids? No. Are you going to have kids? Not sure. How old are you? 36. And then this deafening silence. But really, I still thank my lucky stars that it's a decision that I've made. It's a decision that me and my partner have made together. It's still a better position to be in than people who actively want children, who are actively trying and yet find it to be a challenge. And my heart goes out to these people and these friends of mine. You know, whatever burden or pressure I feel, I can only feel how amplified it is for them. And I can still look at baby pictures and not crumble, like obviously, because it's my decision not to have children. But I know many of my friends, one friend in particular, who looks at baby and children images, especially if their friends have children, and they still find it so tough not to react, feel emotive, feel triggered, and rightly so. It's like, where's that balance? Because obviously you can't people who then have children, you know, they're free to share whatever they want as well on social media. They're free to share whatever aspects of their life that give them joy. And of course, children are going to be their biggest pride and joy. So it's that balance. So I always, unfortunately, say, you know, there are always going to be people that share their life, that include children, on social media. And to some of my friends, I do recommend just switching off from social media because that's all they can really do, right? Other than obviously like seeking professional help should they need it, etc. Other than having a good old natter and cry with your closest trusted friends. But one thing I really wish people would stop doing is asking about children. Not because I get offended by it, and I know there are perhaps many of you who wouldn't get offended by it, but just because you just don't know what people are going through in their life, and they might be in that circumstance where they're really trying to have children and they just can't. They just can't. And it's not only soul destroying, they're genuinely going through almost like the stages of grief because they can't have children. Does it matter if someone has a child? Yes or no? Not really. Obviously, if you have a close relationship with someone, of course you can ask that question. I mean, if you're close with someone, you'd know anyway if they have kids or not. And so yeah, that's why I decided to call this episode the C word, just because of the different reactions it gathers and also like different people's circumstances, really. But yeah, like I said, I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time. I'm really happy for those people who are blessed with children, and that's the only word I can use. I feel like the word in modern day and age, blessed, has been overused, and it's almost become like a hashtag, or has almost become like a trending word, or even some people will roll their eyes at the word when people often overuse a word blessed. I'm too blessed to be stressed. I'm so blessed. Hashtag blessed, you know. But it shouldn't be a word that people roll their eyes at, because to be blessed is a blessing, right? So people who have children, is definitely a blessing. I think if you're somebody who's a parent and has children or a child, like hug them tight, you know, I'm sure you're amazing parents, and yeah, like I said, you're so blessed to have children. I have that different aspect of joy in your life, different element of joy in your life. For those of you who are watching who can't have children, I don't know what it's like, and I can't claim to, but I do have friends who are going through similar things, and you know, I can only be a listening ear should you need it. I can offer a prayer, but there are so many organisations and charities that do offer support for issues like that. And for those of you who are like myself, who don't know whether you can have kids but you're choosing not to, who cares what society thinks of you? Who cares whether you decide not to have kids or not? It doesn't matter. And you know, those reasons could be for different reasons for each individual, each couple. In our case, we enjoy living the life the way we do. We have other priorities, and right now, as many of you may know, we are planning to move to another country, Singapore to be exact, next year. And in at least the next year to 3 year plan or forecast, children are not within that plan. So that's partly the reason. We enjoy our life. We still want to travel and enjoy our lives. And it's, again, please take that with a pinch of salt. I don't mean that if you have children you can't enjoy life, or life is dull and miserable and your life is over. I don't mean that, but you know, we would like to enjoy our lives without a child, enjoying lives with each other for the foreseeable future anyway. And I think as well, we are blessed, I say it again, to be in a relationship where we can just lean on one another and we don't feel the need, again, not saying others do, just talking about my personal experience. We don't feel the need, it's not like we feel we have a hole and that a child would then complete our union. We are complete within ourselves. But if we ever decided to have children, biologically or through adoption, then obviously that child will add another level of satisfaction or another level of completion. But it doesn't mean that we can't be complete within ourselves without child. And getting slightly deeper again, there is another reason. It's a smaller reason, but it's there. Because I'm an only child, I know the loneliness of growing up as an only child. And from that experience, if we were to have children, I would need to have at least 2 because of my experience. I would want my child to have a companionship that is different to the companionship you have with your parents, is different to the companionship you have with your friends, is different to the companionship you have with your cousins and other family members, a sibling companionship. And so it's knowing that I would have to pop out 2, not just 1. And also the fact that because I used to work in social services in the children and family division, you guys can imagine, you guys read the papers, you guys see the news, you guys maybe watch some crime documentaries. Whilst I worked in children's social services, I obviously met the kindest of souls, but I also met evil on many occasions. I met many examples of evil when I worked in social services, and some of the cases that I dealt with or had to deal with were absolutely harrowing. And there were many times I was awake at night, I couldn't sleep, or I'd cry myself to sleep. It was under immense pressure because unlike other jobs, you can't just switch off after 9 to 5. You can't switch off on a weekend. You can't even switch off on holiday. There were many times I'd be on holiday, not fully enjoying myself, worried about whether my child was safe at home. And it really gets into your psyche. And, you know, people have stereotypes of what monsters or what evil looks like. But I can assure you from my work experience, my life experience, that monsters and evil look like our fathers, our uncles, our neighbour, our friendly family friend, our pastor, our imam, our school teacher, our judges. the very well-spoken middle-class politician down the road. Evil and monsters are in every form, and it really gets into your psyche after doing that job for a long time. And there is, of course, an element of me that knows I couldn't possibly ever be a normal parent. Whatever that word may mean, I just feel like I couldn't be that parent that could easily just send my child off to have a sleepover at such and such's house. I probably wouldn't be able to sleep that night. I'd be probably checking up on my child every 2 seconds, making sure they're okay, really trying not to make sure that I'm asking people for, an enhanced criminal check, And as ridiculous as that sounds, I would be that parent. It would be hard not to be that parent. But at the same time, you're not allowing your child to develop fully if you're that level of protective. If you're constantly wrapping them up in bubble wrap or cotton wool, it's not good for their development either. So I'm constantly battling with those thoughts. And I myself have had my own personal experiences. And yeah, like I said, I know what evil looks like. I know what monsters look like. And so there is that element of me that wonders whether it's just best if I leave it alone and not become a parent. So it's such a complex thing. So when somebody asks, do you have children? Really, my question should be, how much time do you have on your hands? How can I break it down for you? Where do I start, And I guess it's the same for different people, but for different reasons. So yeah, it's one of those things. That's why I called it the C word. I would genuinely love to know what your thoughts are on this topic. I really hope that I didn't offend anyone with my opinions. Like I said, they're my opinions. They're mainly me talking from my experience. It's about, a lot of things were to do with my life and my decisions. But I'd love to know what you think. And like I said, not only is this an open space, it's a safe space. So please, can we just be respectful to everybody, including others in the comment section. I mean, I shouldn't really have to say this, but as most of my subscribers and friends are honestly so supportive and lovely. So I'm sure I don't have to say this, but it's just a precaution. But yeah, also please, I'd love to know what you think of this series, the idea of this series, the first episode, this topic. There's so much to unravel here. I would genuinely love to know what you think. Like I said, I plan to upload at least one episode a month, and each topic will have 2 parts to it. I'm still umming and ahhing about who to have as a guest for this particular topic, as it can be so triggering. The thing is, and sadly, there's quite a few people that I have in mind that I could approach, which is great for my episode, not great in terms of life and the unfairness of it. So bear with me. Hopefully there'll be a part 2 very, very soon. But I hope you enjoyed it. Honestly, please, I would love to know what you think. Please be honest with me. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And you know what I mean by enjoy, but I hope it is relatable to some of you. I hope it opens up a discussion. I'm obviously in the UK, so if I include links, most of it will be tied to the UK. But as far as possible, I'll also try to look at international organisations if it exists. But there is always help. There is always an organisation or charity that can help you. There is always a friend or family member. And like I said, my DMs are always open. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the first episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the second episode. Take care.